Oh, getting close. Okay, so now you guys can hear me? Sweet. All right. I've got you for the next 4.5 hours. What Nick tells me. Is that right, Gotcha? Yes. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes. I think Nick was just with some very esteemed colleagues talks about upskilling. Gosh, what do you do when you're 50 out of work? How do you find something new to do? And talk about supply chains. And we were talking, and I gave a talk a few years ago with Nick. Thank you very much. And in front of the session with Gus group talking about supply chains. And always worry about what's next in AI. And what I'm going to share you with today, I want to share with you today, is sort of a personal journey of something I bumped into that I think is going to transform all of our lives in really extraordinarily good ways. And it's something that I think is startling to me, but it's going to be the kind of thing where in a few years, our ability to live healthy lifespans can start to extend. And we're going to need all the help we can get to reimagine how we get all these materials in the hands of going users. So what I'll do today is tee up a new development that's happening that I've bumped into. Sort of give you my perspective of how I found this. I call this source code of life. It's a brand new market. So why don't you go to the next slide for me? And to understand the context of this, why I think it's so powerful, I'll take you back to this scene from it's about a machine where basically this is Alan Turing in World War II, and he's trying to figure out how do you use mechanical and electrical engineering to decipher this secret code. It was actually from German. How do you decipher the Enigma? And he created this machine that did this. One of the first computers, if you will. Next chart. And what happened is he programmed these things by wire wrapping, literally connecting wires to wires. And someone goes, no, let's don't do that. Let's put cards together. So as a card goes through, let little fingers, connect if there was a hole in the card. Then they put cards together in tapes like this, paper tapes. See that? This is coming together. Next chart. And then I was 12. Dating myself. Someone said 64. I'm 65. So when I was 12, I was hanging around the Virginia Commonwealth University playing this computer game. And we didn't have displays. We showed the stuff on teletypes like I just showed you. It was all ASCII, and it was playing Star Trek. And I was excited to see this, but I wanted to know how do these machines work? And there's a new thing called software. A few institutions, I think USC is one of them, started to have computer science degrees. And one of the people at the local VCU station came out and said, "Hey kid," and he hands me an inch-thick printout, which is all in this green paper about this big. And he goes, "Here's the source code." Now I brought this thing home, and I remember I put this all across my back kitchen. Went all the way into we had red shag carpet in the 70s. I didn't know what it was. It was all gibberish. Next slide. And what I saw was this. This is actually someone pulled this from an HP machine about 15 years ago. And I don't understand anything. And the point was that these are all just codes programming this marvelous machine, and I just wanted to know how this worked. And so I was 12, but realized there weren't many people doing this. So suddenly you've got a preteen who can be. You still can't see my slides, Sharon? Let's see. Why don't we get the slide up there? Hey, Sharon, can you see these now? Because I can certainly see them from my side. I guess it's one technical thing.
We're seeing the slides in the room okay.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, good. So I'll walk you through that. So the idea was I saw the source code to machines, and next slide, if you will. And what that did is it put a teenager, or an even keel people in their 40s and 50s, because we're all as a world trying to understand machines. And this will be important in a few minutes. So think about this. If you're new, I'm going to show you today, if you get into this field, regardless of your age, 50, 60, 12, you'll be on an even keel with some of the brightest minds in the world. And what this allowed for me as a little kid is I got into MIT a little young, and I spent a career in some software. Ended up on the gentleman on the left, working with IBM and Gerstner. And when we got to the internet, and then I went for Bob Moritz on the right, Price Waterhouse, helping his digital transformation. Next slide. And then almost 40 years later, this has happened. Next slide. This is a chart that I found quite startling. In the center, of course, is COVID-19. And on the left is a number of people waiting in the UK for an elective surgery. Now, an elective surgery is something like you broke your arm and needs to be fixed. It's not life-threatening. That's still elective. So there were 5,000 people waiting in 2019 for such surgeries. Once COVID hit, numbers skyrocketed to 4.7 million people in the UK waiting for elective surgeries for the pandemic. How in the world are we going to address this problem? Next slide. And then you get the phone call that no one wants. My dad doesn't listen well. He was in the ER on a ventilator. And we didn't know what was going on. He worked for this hospital system called HCA. And the nice thing about my job at Google in the CTO office, you kind of let you do what you want to do. And I reached out to the HCA team and said, I want to help. Next chart. And he was blunt. We're a commercial organization. They're like, Scott, what the heck do you know about healthcare? I said, how much? They said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I know a little thing or two about AI. I've been doing that for a few decades. And that's the thing on the right. So what we have on the right here is a chart for the transformer. These are now the latest transformer is a style of neural network that now has 500 billion nodes in it, starting to approximate our attention network on the left and right. And these things are now able to understand language like never seen before. And the team I was working with inside HCA said, okay, maybe you can help us there. And so the deal we struck is that I would teach them about the AI techniques, and they would teach me about this new field I'm going to show you. And sure enough, they ended up landed a significant deal with HCA, and I'm sort of leading the AI portion of that, which is a lot of fun. Next chart. And as part of our conversation, ended up talking to another friend of mine at Anthem, also in the market, and he said, have you heard of nanopore sequencing? No, what's that? And he goes, it's going to change the world. We got to check it out. And so sure, I'll do that. And he goes, tell me about these transformers and Fourier transforms. So we got into that. But then I said, I got to figure what this is. I'm going to show it to you now. Next chart. And this is the beginning of a new supply chain. It was imagined by David Deamer at UC Davis in 1989, driving to, I think it was a beach house in the summer. And he was inspired, I think, by this mechanism on the right called Coulter Counter. And the scale was much larger on the right. And what this is this is how when you go get your blood sample, they do a complete blood count. What the CDC recommends today is you use this machine, which literally pulls your blood through a little gap. And the gap has electrical charge. It can tell if a cell is white or red. And this is how you count blood cells instead of looking at a slide. Created in 1953. His idea was, what if I take DNA and I pull its DNA through a transistor, thousands of times smaller, but could I do the same thing? We see here the C, the G, the T, the A. These are the binaries of nature. These are nucleotides in the DNA strand. I mean, imagine this and kind of just sat on it for a while. Next chart. This company IPO'd 2 weeks ago. It's out of the UK. It's called Oxford Nanopore. This vision of David's, 30 years ago, now runs the size of a Snickers bar. And the Snickers bar, you can pipette a little bit of fluid, which is again a supply chain challenge to get this across millions of individuals and things like CVS and Walgreens and then what happens is you can actually read exactly what's happening in a nucleotide of anything in nature. So when I was a kid, I saw the printout an inch thick. Now, with this, I have the source code to anything in nature. Next chart. I was the only one fascinated with this. I spent some time working with NASA, as you can see on LinkedIn. And my friends there said, could we actually do this in space to protect protect our astronauts with the best science in the world. And they were worried, could we actually squirt the DNA into this and not have it float out? And the answer is absolutely this works. Next chart. And if you look at the source code, it looks like stuff on the left. What you see in these colors are some letters, but the way DNA works is that we have these anchor points, like these lines here, these are G's, some of the symbols. But you and I may vary stuff in between. That's how DNA works. And most is gibberish. And it reminds you of the song I was listening to, Kanye West, where Will Ferrell goes in, nobody knows what this means, but it gets people going. But what's happening now is that we as a community are now logging millions of examples on databases and looking for snippets of code to understand, just like I did as a kid, what this means. Next chart. And here's a new trick. When I studied the Moderna vaccine and similar vaccines were built by mRNA, messenger RNA, here's the core of what they did. By sequencing, by understanding the code, source code to the virus, they found a string of 4,000 lines, 4,000 nucleotides that essentially are the bumps of the virus. And they put these end caps on it, and then they ordered some, say, liver cells, which you can buy for $100. And they said, could I actually take this source code, put it inside a cell, and sure enough, the cells grew goosebumps. These goosebumps have a little spike protein just like the deadly virus. Except now your body reacts and goes, these cells aren't right. It's called a B cell. It creates a T cell to attack this. And so what happens, you get an injection, you get a sore arm because your B cells are activating and taking out these funny-looking normal cells. And as a result, we now have almost immunity to or resistance to COVID-19 by copy and pasting source code to life. Amazing. Next one. Jennifer Dionne and some others earned a Nobel Prize last year based off this discovery from Mexico almost 2 decades ago, where this red-looking creature here is called a bacteriophage. And what it does, it carries in that little ball above it, it carries source code that it injects into an E. coli. And it tricks the E. coli, like the paper tape, to play that tape and create multiple copies of red. It fills up and bursts, and they go to liver cells. That's a virus called a bacteriophage. They figured out the E. coli resists this and has little scissor hands that come out when it sees this. It indicates this and it can cut these DNA in half, these RNA in half, so that it doesn't reproduce. That technique of cutting the actual strip code and inserting something else was a Nobel Prize called CRISPR. Next. And now at the same time, these science discoveries are happening in AI transformers and with the ability to read, copy, paste, and edit DNA. Digital healthcare exploded. This is tracking the number of telemedicine. I guess the 10 weeks leading up to the identification of the pandemic, and then sort of skyrocket, as Walt talked about here, around the 10th week. And this is because regulators said you can now talk to a doctor across state lines, first time in the United States. Next one. And we started to see massive innovation in this year. Because you couldn't go to the doctor, a company called Rose said, I want to do a DoorDash for birth control. So you pull out your app, you talk to your doctor, she then sends you in a discreet envelope, and then you have birth control without visiting the doctor. This little company, Roman, went from nothing to a $5 billion valuation pretty much in 8 months. Next chart. At the same time, another company called Longo said, what if you treated diabetes and your monitor much like a Peloton? So now I can have a very lively interaction with my device. I can share with my family and friends how I'm doing. I can contact the doctor and then have a chat session with them and stay away from the hospital and have a continuous way of looking at my body, much like exercise. This also took off in the last year as well. Next chart. What's happening now, these are being connected. Because we're starting to see more things online, we're creating these things called a longitudinal health record, patient record. This means you take the visits, you string them together. I now have a history of what you're doing that you own. And that history, if you connect it to the genomics, let's see what happens. Next chart. If you look at some of the 10 most expensive drugs that save a lot of lives and help us a lot, what's interesting about this is even though that's very helpful, the icons in black are those that are actually effective. The icons in blue are those who are not effective, may have complications. And so by now having the longitudinal patient record and the genome sequencing, if you put these together, we can start to understand from a drug perspective how the disease actually striates. So for example, just simple heartburn, there are multiple versions of heartburn, one drug today. With this technique of the record plus the sequencing I just showed you, it'll be less than $100. We can now start to understand and have shades like rainbow colors for these different drugs targeted for you. And you can start to know, and your doctor will know, will the drug be effective to avoid complications? Next chart. What you can also do is a company called Grail. And they said, I wonder if I could use AI with this data, the genome and the record, to identify cancers in your blood by reading the source code of essentially dumpster diving in your blood. Because when you have a cancer, it throws things in your blood to get rid of them. And sure enough, by finding a cohort, they found this thing called methylated DNA, it's a little strand of source code. And they're able to correlate when you have certain strands of code. That means this cancer, at this stage, this organ. This company was recently acquired for $8 billion, roughly, by Illumina, and it was founded just a few years ago. Next chart. Another team said, well, what if I use CRISPR? Remember the scissors we talked about? And said, what if I change one letter? One single letter. If you change a single letter and you put these, basically the molecule of CRISPR close to source in your retina, they're actually curing blindness and restoring color to people who haven't seen color in years. It's startling. And this is by simply making a single change and very carefully understanding the impact on the body. And this is now running in active trials. It's a wonderful breakthrough, giving people sight by essentially changing one letter of source code. Next. This gentleman on the lower right, in his mid-50s, looks fantastic. His name is David Sinclair. He's out of Harvard. He has this idea that our bodies and aging, he has an information theory of aging, which is when we're born on the left, we're a youth. Over time, sun damage, standing next to microwaves, other things in time start to damage your DNA. And then what that leads to is as the cells reproduce, you get what's called genome instability. And he thinks that there's loss of information in the epigenome. That's the stuff in your cell that reads DNA and creates your hair, it's wrinkles, it's baldness, all kinds of things. What he's able to do now by reading the source code, he's starting to have examples and understand how can I start to reverse these transitions. So imagine starting to take pills, for example, to help get away, help us live longer and healthier lives, because gray hair and wrinkles and baldness, things we all deal with, it's just code now. And so David's actually doing this in an area of wellness and information theory of aging, starting to prove it in small mammals at the current time. Next chart. It gets even more exotic and more interesting. This is Chris Mason on the lower right. I met him through a talk he gave at Google, and he's also now talking to NASA. His idea is, well, wait a second. We have glasses, like I'm wearing glasses, and that helps us see. Why don't we look at the source of other things in nature and create molecules that help us with better defenses, better like eyeglasses, like genomic eyeglasses. So this little creature here called it's a little water buffalo. It's a little tiny, looks like a grain of sand moss. It's a creature. And this creature can actually be completely desiccated. You can dry it out. And it looks like it's freeze dried. Add water, they come back to life. It's amazing. He said, well, how does this work? So we read the source code to this creature, and he found a gene called DSUP, stands for, it was named by, I think, from Japan. It's the damage suppressor gene. He extracted this. You then buy simple human cells. And what he did over time, he said, let's go put this under basically radiation, like sun glare. And what you see over time on the x-axis shows you how many cells are dying. And the green is normal, and blue has this gene attached. And what we're now finding is this has now improved the ability for people to actually be resistant by essentially swallowing a pill. It's amazing. It's like suntan lotion internally. And looking at this is an idea. And I highly recommend you read this book, The 500 Year Plan. Next chart. And it's going to get even better. What I walked you through for Oxford Nanopore and companies like Illumina, that's sequencing, trying to read all the patterns in our DNA, stitched, or RNA or things in our blood. What Jennifer's looking at is saying, well, what if I actually looked at the electromagnetic signature? Think of that, the little tiny electromagnetic signature that comes off the conical shape of a DNA, because it has a shape. And that shape produces a signature. And through nanophotonics, basically very, very small, essentially almost like mirrors, receptors, she creates these tuning forks that are so small she could put millions on that little tiny chip. And I saw this just last week or so. And what they can do is they can tell you in a second half what it sees in a serum. And this is now in research. And now imagine a test for $1 that can essentially now see what's inside the source code to which you can do this at a local drugstore, at a gas station, and see what's in your blood, what's in your urine, or other these body fluids to understand what's happening in your system. And this now is 5 minutes. When the human genome that used to take $100 million and years to sequence, will soon be less than $1. Next. So I'm not the only one who sees this. What we're seeing now is imagine an area where we start to understand how we function and nature functions. Agriculture, plants, livestock, you and I, our lives, our kids. And we start to identify wellness conditions and reverse them by understanding at a fundamental level what's happening in our bodies. So instead of having just to excise cancer, reprogram it. Right? Molecules that help adjust that, rewind it. Because now, like I had as a kid at Star Trek, that basic, we didn't have the source code. And we see now Nobel laureates and people are getting excited about this. And billions are literally being stacked right now to go after the space. This is just one example of 150. And so I wanted to educate you through the next chart. I want to share the story with you because to me, this is one of the most exciting applications of AI. We imagine that healthcare will now get to the point where you can visit the local store and have almost, for those that don't have a lot of money or they're the poor parts of the world, imagine having visit, understanding on the source code what's happening in their lives, be able to search and recommend what they might do next with a physician over the internet. So anyway, I just want to share with you, Nick, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Go to the next chart. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share what I consider one of the most exciting developments I've seen in science in my entire life. And as my friend said, it's AI all the way down. So thank you, Nick. Any comments or questions? I'm happy to answer.